So why do something like 70% of big change projects in companies just fail? It's a question that keeps a lot of leaders up at night. Today, we're not just going to talk about why they fail. We're going to dig into the hidden strategies that make the other 30% actually work. Here's what we've got lined up. First, we'll talk about why the one-size-fits-all approach is a disaster. Then we'll look at two totally different strategies, the top-down architect's plan and the bottom-up approach of the secret agents. We'll even learn some secrets from companies that have been around for centuries, and we'll wrap it all up with a challenge for you. You've probably heard this saying before, and it is the perfect place to start. In business, it's so tempting to just grab the same tool for every single problem. But when you're trying to change an entire organization, its people, its culture, its systems, that single tool approach is pretty much a recipe for failure. So, what's that first tool that most leaders grab? Well, it's what we're calling the architect's plan. This is that classic top-down strategy, where leadership designs this huge, detailed blueprint for everyone else in the organization to follow. The most famous version of this is John Kotter's 8-step model. And you can see why it's popular, right? It's logical, it's structured, it's a clear roadmap that's all about precision and control. The whole idea is you build momentum, you communicate a super clear vision, and you steer the ship with a steady hand. It's powerful, for sure, but it assumes the problem is a nail that just needs a really well-aimed hammer. But what happens if the problem isn't a nail? What if it's way more complicated than that? Well, that brings us to a completely different way of thinking. Instead of forcing change from the top, what if you could find and empower the innovators who are already hidden inside your organization, the secret agents of change? Just look at how different these two philosophies are. I mean, they're polar opposites. The traditional way is to bring in outside experts to fix what's broken. It's all about deficits. But this other approach, called positive deviance, it just flips the script. It looks inside the organization for solutions that are already working and then just amplifies them. The leader's job totally changes from being the hero with the plan to being a facilitator of discovery. And here's the critical idea. For almost any big, messy problem, someone, somewhere inside your organization has probably already figured out a workaround. These are your positive deviants. They're succeeding with the same resources and rules as everyone else. So your mission isn't to invent some brilliant solution from scratch. It's to find these hidden geniuses and spread their wisdom around. Okay, so we've got these two competing ideas, the top-down plan versus the bottom-up discovery. So which one is actually better? Well, to get some clues, let's look at a group of companies that have absolutely mastered the art of survival. Not for a few decades, but for centuries. Get this, the average company on the S&P 500 today lasts for about 15 years. That's it. Meanwhile, there's the special class of Japanese businesses called Shinisei that have been around for over 1,000 years. How on earth is that even possible? Let me introduce you to the world's oldest company. This hotel has been running continuously for more than 1,300 years. It's been passed down through 52 generations of the very same family. And their secret? It wasn't about aggressive growth or maximizing shareholder value. It was this deep, obsessive dedication to their customers and their employees. And here's a wild statistic that backs this up. Almost 90% of companies that have made it past the 100-year mark have fewer than 300 employees. It's this incredible reminder that to last, you don't have to be huge. Small can be incredibly durable. Another master of longevity? Nintendo. Yeah, that Nintendo. They started way back in 1889 making playing cards. When that market totally crashed, they could have just disappeared. But they were flexible. They realized their core identity wasn't about making cards. It was about creating games and entertainment. And that single insight allowed them to pivot into the video game giant we all know today. So the big lesson from these ancient companies is that long-term survival is really this delicate dance. It's about finding stability through flexibility. You absolutely need both, the clear direction of the architect and the creative, on-the-ground adaptability of the secret agent. Okay, let's bring all this home and make it really practical. Imagine for a second you have this brilliant, game-changing idea at your job, but you have absolutely no formal authority. You're not the boss. How in the world do you actually make change happen? There's actually a famous Harvard business simulation that puts you right in this spot. You're the director of product innovation at a sunglasses company, and you're really passionate about pushing a big sustainability initiative. The thing is, you can't actually force anyone to help you. So your mission is to hit these 3 really ambitious goals in just 2 years. But here's the catch. You can't order anyone to do a single thing. You have to get it all done through pure influence. You basically have to become a secret agent of change yourself. And that whole challenge brings us right back to our central theme. You see, real, lasting change is never about picking one extreme or the other. It's always about finding that powerful final balance. The truly great organizations don't choose. They don't build these rigid, unchangeable structures, but they also don't just let chaos reign. What they achieve is something called organizational fluidity. They set a clear vision from the top, but they empower their people, their secret agents, to constantly experiment, adapt, and innovate from the ground up. So as we wrap things up, here's the question I want you to take with you. When you look at the changes you want to make in your world, ask yourself, does this moment call for the architect's detailed blueprint, or does it need the secret agent's clever discovery? Because the real genius isn't in picking one. It's in knowing exactly how to blend them both to create change that doesn't just happen, but actually lasts.